Hey guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies.
Relax, be cool, 'cause if you don't, you'll act like a fool, so be cool.
$5 wine. No, I promise, it's delicious. Not going to be much of an opening. All I knew about this movie before going in was that it was a musical epic and it had Adam Driver and Marianne Cotillard. Not even a story. That was really it. This particular review was about to be for Reminiscence, the new Hugh Jackman movie, but I wasn't hearing a lot of positive buzz coming out of that, so this became a last-minute switch. And I gotta say, I'm not regretting that choice. This is my honest opinion of Annette. Henry McHenry, played by Adam Driver, is a stand-up comedian. Anne Defrenu, played by Marianne Cotillard, is a famous opera singer. They fall in love and eventually have a child named Annette. But as problems begin to boil over in their marriage, Anne tragically dies while on a boat with her family, and Henry vows to take care of baby Annette.
So here, Mr. Henry McHenry is not allowed to make the public laugh to death.
It's bizarre. Not sure how much of it made sense. But I kinda dig it. This is far and away the most unique and compelling musical that I've seen in years. I'll give it to you straight. The movie makes some seriously odd choices that I couldn't even begin to understand. Let me give you just a little taste of said oddities. Very light in lieu of the more eye-opening stuff. The movie both opens and closes with obliterating the fourth wall. The opening narration tells the audience in a pretty humorous way to shut up and not even fart during the movie.
If you want to sing, laugh, clap, cry, yawn, boo, or fart, please do it in your head.
And the opening song asks if the movie can start. Runs a bit long and kind of annoying since the lyrics are repeated over and over. By the time the credits roll, the actors take a casual stroll through the woods and tell the audience that if they like the film, then to just tell people about it.
If you liked what you saw, tell a friend.
Tell a friend?
If you've no friends, then tell a stranger.
Kinda weird, right? But to you, that's probably nothing. I mean, it's just the beginning and the end of this 2.5-hour movie. Whatever you might scream at me. Well, I did say I was going to start you off light. So let's grab that hammer and bludgeon you with something that'll really tilt your head. Annette's a puppet. Yeah, look at that creepy thing. That is the baby that Anne pushed out of her snooch and loves with all of her big, beautiful French heart. This was distractingly weird for much of the flick, but there's a reason for it. Granted, it's a very artist must do an art reason, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel it. So what I didn't put in my summary is what happens after Henry makes his vow to take care of Annette. He discovers that she can sing. Really well. He ropes in his conductor friend, played by Simon Helberg, to make her a big star. By the way, Helberg is just great.
Excuse me a minute.
You can see where this is going. He sees her as a puppet, a meal ticket to a career comeback, rather than his daughter. At some point, a real version of her does show up, so there's plenty to read into. Like, why is Annette a puppet even before Anne's death? I would understand it if the entire movie was Henry's perspective, but what about when scenes are going on that he's not a part of? Why is Annette a puppet then? There's plenty of fun theories that I can see coming out of this flick, and I can't wait to read some of them. For now, I'm just having fun having to be challenged at all by a musical.
And the Muslims hate the Catholics, and the Tutsis hate the Hutus, everybody hates the Jews.
And I'm just gonna say it, this is Adam Driver's best performance yet. Yes, I said that about Marriage Story, and I meant it at the time. And yes, technically Marriage Story may be a better put together movie, but this was a multifaceted performance out of him that blows everything that he's done out of the water. Convince me I'm wrong, I dare you! Please don't. I want to live in my little bubble of love. For me, it's true. Henry is one of the wildest games of Pong, even at a more static state. When he's doing his stand-up during his heyday, he's actually pretty funny. I mean, okay, he's got the sort of popularity on the level of, say, Morgan Murphy rather than Kevin Hart. But I prefer Morgan over Kevin any day, so whatever. Off track, Henry's dry humor is right up my alley. Takes his time, but the punchlines get a laugh out of me.
However, asthmatics, keep your inhalers in position, okay?
He's such a romantic when he's with Anne, he had me swooning. And I'm a filthy hetero, yo! But I'm brown, so that accounts for diversity points, doesn't it, SJWs? If you disagree, then it's hate speech and you deserve to be cancelled. That's the law. I'm drunk as I write this. Let me sober up before I continue on.
All right, I'm back, and I'm much more sober.
I didn't sober up. I just really like that clip. Anyway, Henry goes through the gamut of emotions in this thing. He becomes a drunk when Annette is born, becoming washed up, though I still think his robbery joke was amazing.
See, my house was broken into last night, and bastard stole all my jokes.
But it all comes to a head when the boat scene comes up. This was an awesome scene. The production value is already staggering throughout the film, but this stood out to me in particular. I haven't seen the behind-the-scenes stuff that I'm sure is online, but I have to believe that this was an elaborate, mostly practical set, with the exception of what I'm assuming is a gigantic green screen. However they did this scene, it's downright breathtaking, and the performances out of both Driver and Cotillard are phenomenal.
Comfort me, hold me tight. Oh, what a terrible, terrible night.
Even post Anne's death, Driver comes across as really sincere. Henry seems legit guilt-ridden for having had a role in his wife's death, and seems to want to do his best to be better than he's been. But then Annette shows off her talents and you can practically see the wheels turning in Henry's head. And let me tell you without spoiling, he only gets crazier. And I love it.
All the world deserves to see this. It's our moral duty, right? Well, what do you think, conductor?
And Anne as the vengeful spirit? Bro, that makeup, that design. That alone better be enough to prime this movie for an Oscar nom. Cause if it doesn't get one, I am gonna kick my best friend Mark in the shin. There's plenty of positives to go around. And make no mistake, anyone who says that they love this movie, I totally get why. But, unfortunately, critics cap on. It has its fair share of issues. Please don't hate me, but I can't just not talk about them. I mean, I could, but I'm literally the worst, so it's happening. For as long as the movie is, reminder, it's a 2.5-hour musical, emotional beats seem a little random. Why exactly did Henry become a drunk? From where I was sitting, he was genuinely in love with Anne, but only became an alcoholic when Annette was born. Why? What did I miss? Did he simply low-key not want to be a father? Was it a Star is Born situation where his popularity was fading and took it out on Anne? I just don't quite get where his frustrations come from, and much of the story is in his perspective, so it's not made clear. This is a recurring problem for me as well. How did Henry even know about the accompanist? Where did they meet?
Thanks for coming by, my conductor friend. got something to show you.
This is definitely a personal issue, but I am curious to see how many people might be in the same boat as me. For a few sections of Anne singing, and for the record, that's not Marianne Cotillard actually singing the operatic stuff. That's an actual opera singer in her stead. For those sections, I had to turn on subtitles. Did anyone else have to? I imagine that is the biggest insult I could ever make to a person who actually sings opera. Or just very telling of what kind of movies I watch. In movies like this, it's too easy to hide subtext and themes in the lyrics that could be missed if you're not paying attention. I doubt I still caught them, but the point is, if you're not an opera aficionado, I might recommend watching this with subtitles. I want to make it clear that I'm aware that this movie was originally not envisioned to be a film at all. The band known as Sparks, I fully admit to not knowing who they are the true maestros of this movie. It was originally expected to be their next album. I guess they have a penchant for creating narrative-driven music, but I guess one thing led to another, and here we are. It's a movie. Honestly, it kind of shows. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but because there's a wide array of musical styles in this thing, it's hard not to get a little lost, especially if it's not your style. For some, this may not be an issue, but this might appeal to only a few.
Come in.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Breathe in, breathe out, breathing. That's it. Breathe in, breathe out, breathing.
I like what I saw, purely from a novelty perspective. I imagine that there's other wilder musicals out there that might put this to shame, but for my personal tastes, and as someone who tends to shy away from musicals, this scratched an itch that I wasn't even really aware that I had. It's weird, but it's still kind of an engaging little number. And I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't enjoying myself. With that said, from a narrative standpoint, this does have a few limes that sour the experience. Hey, if you're a fan of musicals, I'm really curious to know what you thought. If you're not a fan of musicals, I don't think this will change your mind unless you really want something that's completely different from the types of musicals that they usually belt out. If you are, then I recommend it. My honest rating for Annette, a 4 out of 5.
We're scoffing at logic. This wasn't the plan.
Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Hope to see you soon. One final caveat as you guys move on with your day, I've decided to test my luck at a Patreon, so please consider supporting the channel. No obligations, of course, no content is gated off, but any and all support would mean a lot. Links in the description. Have a great one, folks.